Hey, good morning. Let's go over today's trade plan. So in the overnight session, we saw that ES held on to yesterday's gains and balanced above the previous all-time high of 47.5. So the directional bias continues to be bullish. The main catalyst this morning is the Philly Fed survey at 9 a.m. Central. But given the fact that we broke out yesterday on strong momentum and volume, the idea is that any pullbacks into support can offer us some nice long setups. The aggressive spot to go long would be at 46 to 47 or anywhere within the overnight range, looking for a range extension higher. The more conservative spots are 42.75 to 44.75 and 38.75 to 40.75. Now, usually after a strong breakout, you won't get a pretty deep retracement. So, you may only get a pullback to the 46 area or at most to 42.75 to 44.75, and as long as we're not seeing any clear signs that are telling us that this is going to be a failed breakout, which would be indicative via very negative internals or some unusually negative tick readings like minus 1100 or something. But as long as we're seeing some balance on the NYC tick, maybe like a minus 6 to 800. And similar readings on the upside, positive 6 to 800. The internals can be negative because the previous close is 1949, so any move below that could result in some negative internals, a negative advanced decline reading. But as long as it's not an extreme and it's not trending lower, we should be okay. And at the very minimum, I think that we'll get some short-term edge and tradable reactions at the support zones on the way down. I think what's going to make this day challenging is if there is no pullback, then I think it will be a tougher day to trade. And in that case, you can rely on some of the intraday key levels, like a pullback to the midpoint VWAP or a test of the overnight VPOC, a test of the prior VPOC, things like that. So if it's shaping up to be quite bullish, and it never really gives you a nice pullback to buy, then that would be the challenging part. And you can either choose to skip trading at that point, right? You can just skip the setup and not take the aggressive location, or you can try to time the intraday swings a bit and simply buy a pullback into intraday support as it's developing. You would have to play a little bit more defense with those types of trades. Just because they're not really strong support levels, they're just based on the day's activity. But I think you can still get just very short-term edge off of those levels, and as long as you're playing defense and managing your risk properly, those trades can be okay as well. But the simpler setups and the higher probability setups would be any pullbacks into support. Testing some of the support levels that were already in place from before and some of the breakout areas from yesterday afternoon. So those are the main ideas. On the upside, we have the overnight high right now at 51.25, but this is all-time highs, so there really isn't any hard resistance on the upside based on the recent volatility and the expected volume. ES can make a range extension up to 56 to 58. Perhaps some profit taking comes in over there, and in the event of a strong upside move, we could go up to 61.75 to 63.75, and then the buying could shut off at the zone above. But we just have to keep in mind that these zones are based on range extensions and the expected volatility, so these are not hard resistance areas. They're just nice reference areas that typically do provide good location to take profit on the long side, but we don't want to lean on it too much. And as far as exiting longs goes, into new highs, it is going to be about timing it. If you get a nice move with a nice upside tick reading and on pretty decent volume, that could be short term, the end of an upside swing, and then we start bouncing again. So as far as the exits go, that's one way to time the exit when the market's making all-time highs, is just kind of take profit on an exhaustion type bar and then look for the next setup. You may be getting out early, but you may also be getting out near a short-term intraday top, and it doesn't mean we can't make another high, but um, then you can just look for another setup on the pullback. So those are the main ideas. The short-term bias continues to be bullish, with caution on any short trades, even intraday, and that will really be the focus today. First 30 minutes will probably be continued balance with perhaps a range extension to the upside, and then after the Philly Fed survey, we can get some directional movement in either direction. If it's a negative reaction, we could get a pullback to support, but then the expectation is that buyers will step in and push ES back up towards 49 to 51 at the very minimum, and potentially higher. So let's see how well the buyers hold it up this morning, and we'll take it from there.